Hello, everyone. Wanted to get started with some of the material out of this next chapter. Know we did a little jumping around, but I felt it was a good thing to go from the material on job analysis and writing up a job description to taking that kind of content, that kind of material, and turning it into something that we could use, especially when it comes to one of the very big aspects of industrial organizational psychology, and that is hiring and recruitment. If you read the textbook, it talks about the fact that this is not something that is looked highly upon by a lot of people. They think it's pretty easy. There's not much to it. Anybody could do it, and that kind of thing. I'm here to tell you there's a little bit more to it. We make it a bit more scientific to try and be as objective as possible, truly work to get the right person for each job. So let's go ahead and get into this, okay? First of all, I want to talk about what recruitment is. And very simply put, recruitment is all about attracting people, okay? Attracting applicants. And in essence, we want to get applicants with the right qualifications. How do you know the right qualifications? You'll look at the job analysis that's been done and the description that's been written from it. And based on that, you should be able to look at that description and know what you're looking for in terms of individuals to hire in that regard, okay? Now, when it comes to recruitment, there's really two different types. The first type I want to talk about, okay, is called internal recruitment. And simply put, when we talk about the concept of internal recruitment, what we're talking about is hiring from within an organization. Companies have a legal right to, first of all, post a position within their own organization, their own company. They can post it for 15 days, they can post it for 30 days, they might post it for even longer, 60 days, and some cases even longer than that, to see if they can find someone to hire from within. And it makes perfect sense. You know a lot of these people, you know a lot about them. This is a very good way of doing things. The only problem is if you are receiving, your company is receiving federal funds. You've applied for a contract to get some work done and you're receiving federal funds. Then basically you're considered a federal contractor. And you cannot necessarily turn around and just go ahead and hire from within. You actually have to post the job. And when it comes to posting the job, you might post it with for example, the Missouri Department of Employment Services, any kind of state employment agency. That way you make sure that you're trying to hire all possible candidates. You're not leaving anyone out, lesser chance of discrimination in that regard. There are two different types of internal recruitment worth noting. One is what we refer to as the competitive recruitment, and then there is the non-competitive internal recruitment. Competitive recruitment basically means that you have posted a job within your own organization, your own company, and people can, within the company, go ahead and apply for it. For example, if Walmart had an opening for an assistant manager in their sporting goods department at a particular store, they can legally post that job within their own organization, within their own store, all right, for whatever period of time and let people apply for it. The idea behind competitive internal recruitment is that basically one person is probably going to get the job and other people will not. So you really see a little bit of motivation, you see desire, you see who truly has the want or the need to become a higher level employee, and you really learn a lot about them in that regard. There is also what we call non-competitive internal recruitment. And with non-competitive internal recruitment, you actually are not applying for a higher level position. You're not applying for one. What you are doing in essence is this. Maybe you, for example, get hired in as an entry-level accountant with an accounting firm. Maybe you are considered entry-level accountant level 1, which is the lowest level. And after 3 months or 6 months or a year, you might receive notification that you are now an accountant level 2. You've gotten a promotion, possibly with more pay, possibly with more duties, but you never really applied for it and you didn't have to. You've proven yourself. And so these are times where the recruitment and the promotion more specifically comes along without having to actually go out and fill out a test or turn around and do more interviewing and things like that. That's what we mean by non-competitive. Now, there are some advantages and disadvantages to both. The big advantage to internal recruitment is this. With internal recruitment, you already often know a little bit about the employees who are applying. You have possibly past evaluations. You have supervisors who can comment on their level of work, their level of productivity, their motivation, and so on. And that's a big advantage to it. You already know a lot about the person when you have someone applying internally. The biggest disadvantage to internal recruitment is that basically you don't get new ideas. I've actually seen organizations that constantly hire from within. That's all they do is hire from within. And basically what happens is that everyone becomes yes people. They don't have new and innovative ideas. They don't have creative ideas. People brought from the outside might have that, but a company, especially if they're competitive with other organizations, they can't be that way if they're not getting new ideas. And new ideas sometimes come from people coming from the outside, coming on in, and sharing with you how they're doing things that really gets things started. So that's one method I definitely want you to know in that regard. It's called internal recruitment. There is also what is referred to as external recruitment. And simply put, when it comes to external recruitment, you're talking all about recruiting brand new employees to an organization from the outside. And if we're going to turn around and do that, okay, obviously this is competitive, there are some different ways to get these people to notice you and hopefully show interest in being part of your organization. So let's talk a little bit about that. We speak of what are called methods of external recruitment. And probably one of the oldest methods of external recruitment is what is called the newspaper ad. Okay, we're going to talk about that one first, but it's not the only one, posting a job in a newspaper or a professional journal. There's also what is electronic media, radio, television especially, and even the internet as a way of posting things. And then I want to talk about one which is very creative. It's called point of purchase methods of recruitment. So let's sort of go through each of these. I want to start with what is called the newspaper ads, all right? When it comes to running ads in newspapers, professional journals, I think I said this a moment ago, definitely on the decline in popularity in use. Very, very few people look towards a paper to find a job anymore. So if you're turning around and posting a job, you can do this approach, but it by no means is the best one, as it may have been a long time ago. Now, there are some different methods. There are 4 methods of applying for a particular job, okay? When you put it out there, how are you going to ask people to get the ball rolling? How are you going to ask them to contact you? You can actually turn around and post a job and in it turn around and say that you want them to call, all right? Now, this is often done with a company who wants to quickly screen applicants. They actually want you to call in. But they'll also do this if a company wants to hear your phone voice. Hear your phone voice. A phone voice is if you're applying to be a receptionist, if you're applying to be an on-the-phone technician, if you're applying to be in telemarketing. They want to hear your voice. They want to hear how well you talk on the phone, okay? And so that can be part of it. So calling is a method of not only quickly deciding if someone is or is not a good applicant based on some questions they may ask you over the phone, but they also get to hear you, which can mean an awful lot. The next method worth mentioning is to post a position, possibly in a newspaper or professional journal, and tell people you need to apply in person. When you ask someone to apply in person, a lot of times you have your own application with your particular company that your company uses. You might have designed an application based off of your job analysis, or more specifically, your job description. So you want people to come in and fill it out. And there's obviously nothing wrong with that. When you do this, you don't want a large bunch of people calling in. Okay, so you don't want to tie up the phone lines. You might turn around and ask people to come by and fill out that application right there. Um, Another thing is that if you have something such as um, a company that does a lot of work on the phone. If you have, for example, Domino's Pizza, a lot of people send in orders by the internet, but some people calling in. And if you have 4 or 5 positions open, you don't want a particular store getting tons and tons of phone calls. You would rather have them come and apply, possibly in person or something like that. The other thing is what we call the let's have a look at you routine. Some jobs, depending upon what they are, it's not illegal to turn around and actually have a company that wants to take a look at you, especially if looks are important. Now there are rules on discrimination, and we'll talk a little bit later about some of the rules on discrimination based off of appearance and so on and so forth. But it's not illegal for them to want to do that. So here are 2 of the 4 methods that companies may post in a newspaper or journal. They may ask you just to call in. They may ask you to come and apply in person. Another thing that they may turn around and do is ask you to send in a resume. Okay. When you do this with a company, companies do this a lot when they expect a huge response, a large response of people, and they don't have the ability to talk to them on the phone. They don't have the ability for possibly hundreds, if not thousands, of people to come to their particular store or location. They would much rather you send it in, and usually send it in electronically. Okay. The send resume ads may also include an online application, and then you include the resume with that. But that way, you're not flooded with phone calls, you're not flooded with people. They come in and they can turn around and go through the paperwork as they see fit without having to deal a lot with people just showing up. Okay. And then one of the interesting ones that I don't think a lot of people have ever heard of, and I want you to know, is called the blind box. Blind box ads are done by organizations a lot of times when they basically they don't want you to know just yet who you're applying for. You might get a notification, like mentioned in your book, where it says local organization is looking to hire, or local accounting firm, or something like that. And they sort of leave you in the dark, all right? The companies want to remain anonymous. A lot of times, and you want to know why, basically, if the companies knew, if the applicants knew who was applying, all right, they could receive thousands of applications for a particular job. When in reality, that's, because everybody wants to work with a certain company, when in reality, lots of the people applying are not qualified. I think Microsoft Network has gone through this in the past out there on the West Coast. You apply for a job, you don't necessarily apply for a right through Microsoft. At one time, I believe they were using the blind box approach. You were a computer technician applying for a job. And so only people who were truly computer technicians would apply. If you said Microsoft is now hiring, well, lots of people want to go work for them. So you could end up having to sift through tons of applications. So that's one of the reasons to use a blind box, where you have an ad in a newspaper or a journal, but it doesn't completely clarify who the company is. Another example of blind box might be if the job is important, but maybe people will initially be turned off by who the company is until you hear them out. I think the book gave you an excellent example of a blind box when it turned around and said in no uncertain terms that maybe you apply for a job in sales, but the job is doing something that a lot of people would not find too terribly thrilling, such as working for a funeral home, okay, or turning around and working for an organization doing things that don't sound exciting at first, such as possibly roofing. Work for a company. I had a friend of mine who worked in sales, and basically he bid on turning around and replacing roofs on lots of businesses, re-roofing and things like that. It wasn't very exciting. People don't go to college for that, but it was marketed as a sales position with high pay, and in so doing, you found out who the company was. Okay. Now, The other methods outside of newspapers and professional journals include things such as electronic media, television, and even radio, and definitely the internet can be ways to turn around and find jobs. As far as television goes, if you're running a commercial, you can turn around and put in your commercial that, we would love to hire. All right. Radio can do that. Actually post job applications on a radio, or they'll talk about a job, especially if someone is, say, working for a company that basically does a lot of driving, and so that company may post on the radio, or definitely the internet. All right, there are so many different companies out there that you can go through via the internet to find jobs and things of that sort. We'll talk more about those later. The last one I want to hit upon is what is called point of purchase ads. Now, these are very fascinating, creative ways of turning around and getting people to notice. Okay, with a point of purchase ad, you might actually put job postings where customers are easily exposed to them. All right, where people will see them. I don't know if you've ever noticed this driving down the highway. I put this up here, that you ever turn around and you pass a pickup truck, and in the process of doing so, you might see on the pickup truck where basically they have a little ad: want to work for us? This is what we pay. Call this number, and so on. I mean, you're driving down the road, you're passing one of these semis, and you see this. Hey, it does work. Sometimes you turn around and you go to a fast food restaurant. You sit down and have a bite to eat. Did you know that on some job mats, all right, placemats with your food, you actually turn it over and there's a job application. Want to work for us? Flip the paper over, fill out the application, and actually turn in the placemat to apply for a job. That's how sometimes that happens. You can get a receipt, and on the receipt, it may turn around and say, I think Hardee's has done this and Wendy's has done this. They'll turn around and say, interested in working for us, call this number or ask for an application, and or go online and fill out an application. That's one that you can do. Heck, even Domino's has turned around and posted applications and job information on the pizza boxes that you get. So you can turn around and get a web address to go fill out, or possibly there may be a piece of paper that's attached to the outside of the box with the job application. If you flip it over, fill that out and drop it off. Another way of getting a job. Okay, folks, these are some of the good methods out there. This is just one of many things. Wanted to share it with you. Hope you find it helpful. All right, keep up the great work. I'll have a few more of these for this chapter.